Hello, namaste, and welcome to this next episode in the special edition of this series Baat. I'm your host Pavan, and today we are going to talk about a very different and a unique topic, that is the life in slums. At some point of time, we all would have lived on the edge of slums, we would have seen the slums with our own eyes, and we would have walked across it. We would have thought very differently. But had you lived amongst them to understand their stories, your opinion would have been very different from what you would have had when you saw it from the outside. We have a lot of slums in India. In every city, you have some corner of, even in colonies, you have some sort of slums, and they all have a lot of stories behind them. Some slums like Dharavi and all form because of construction work, development. A lot of these things take place, which contributes to growth of slums as cities grow. So, to talk about this, we have a very interesting guest today, and I'd like to invite Ms. Jasmine Bishnoi to talk about the whole experience of living in slums and understanding their stories and all whatever is related to this issue. So, Jasmine, I'd like to welcome you, and now you can start off with your intro remarks. You can make a small introduction about how you came across this, how you started getting interested in this issue, and how you so you can give us a small intro about how you got attracted to this thing and how you felt you should do something about it. What is your experience and how you got there? Over to you.
First of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. It really means a lot to me. So, thank you so much. And well, it was back in December 2015. I just completed my bachelor's first semester exam and I was planning to do something, but I wasn't exactly very sure what to do because I wasn't part of NSS or any NGO back then. But I was knowing that this Christmas I have to do something, like something that is very different, that is very out of my comfort zone. I need to do something very unique apart from going to church and praying and going to a festival. Like in Rohtak we have a mini festival, so I was thinking like something very different from usual activities we do on Christmas day. Then I saw a post on Facebook, like college student going out and teaching children's living in slum. That was the post that inspired me a lot, and which I thought it's completely different, unique, and it's something I should do because it's something very very good for the society. And back then I wasn't very social activist type of person. I was just a first semester student in college who have no idea what life is going to be about. Then I asked my parents, yeah, I took permission from my parents, like, can I go to slum? And my parents just said, take few people with you because you can't go alone. So I called two of my friends and I asked them, do you want to go to slum with me on Christmas? At first they were like raising question like why, we could do something different, we can go out and have party. And insisted that please, I want to do something, so let's join, please come with me, I would really want to do. And they agreed. So I asked my mother to take out all our old clothes, and the first problem that I faced was the food, because we eat little spicy food and I wasn't sure what sort of food they eat, because I thought I'm eating spicy and if I give them a spicy food, what if they face some health issues, and that will be a huge trouble for me, which I wasn't ready to get into it at any cost. So I made sweet rice because sweet rice is something that you can easily eat and there's nothing wrong with it that when you eat something and you face any trouble. So safety first. Then I took all my old clothes and I asked my friends to buy around 80 to 100 packets of biscuits so we can distribute to everyone. Then I started searching where is slum in Rohtak, because I don't know where the slum is. So I search online. I made calls to few of my friends to know if there's any slum near their society or locality. Then I got to know there's a slum that is outside Rohtak, means on the outskirts of Rohtak. So me and my friends decided to go there on a Christmas day and be their little Santa. So we went there. At first, it was very uncomfortable and very strange because everyone was staring at us, and I wasn't very comfortable because when people, large number of people, starting staring at you, and you feel like what is even happening, and you are all holding all the boxes, and you're just having wearing a Santa cap, and they must be thinking that these people are crazy. Then I called, like, did namaste to everyone, and I said ki sare bacche is side aa jao, like all the kids should become on the next side. Then I asked them to sit down so I can distribute to everyone so that nobody is left. Then we started distributing food, we distributed biscuits, we gave them old clothes, and we had so much fun, like so much fun. We were laughing. I was asking them their names and they were calling me Didi, Didi, Didi. And we just spent a very good time with them. It was like 2 or 3 hours we spent in the slum, and it doesn't feel bad after that when we got to know each other. There was a language issues because they were from the east and I'm in the north, and I wasn't able to understand their language because they was from Assam. But somehow we tried to communicate, and it's been 4.5 years now, and I'm so much attached with them.
Hey Jasmine, I think that's a very good account that you have put out. Indeed, many of our viewers might have had similar experiences in their cities, wherever they are. I'd like to put in my experience as well. Once, during my bachelor's, there was one NGO where we had to intern, and it's a prominent NGO in Hyderabad called the MV Foundation, which is basically at the forefront of fighting child labor and child marriages. So a lot of the children that come are identified, and they're all from this lower strata where most of them dwell in slums and work as child laborers, or asked to handle their works and like whatever construction work, all of this. So it's a roughly very unorganized and mostly from the lower strata in the society. So this NGO, I was interning there, and they asked me to go to interact with slum dwellers and tell them not to send their children to work, rather send them to schools, and all of this has happened. So I am very much, at least on the periphery of how slums work and all of that. I am aware of this, and I also lived in in an area adjoining a slum during my bachelor's in Pune. So it's a very indeed there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot of stories behind it. So given this background, I'd like to ask you the first question. What do you think is the perception about slums in today's world? Many think are all places where nothing works, there's no law and order. But then, if we look at the kind of a similar structure in rural areas, they're actually well behaved in India. And so, what is the first, in terms of perception, how do you see people reacting to the idea of slums and managing the slums? And what do you think is the, untold stories behind the slums?
Well, to be honest, people do appreciate the idea of somebody going in the slum, but they don't appreciate themselves going in slum. That's the huge difference. Second thing is there's a huge difference between a rural area and a slum area, because in slum there's no education, there's no awareness. They probably don't know who is the Prime Minister of India. They don't know the basic habits of living a normal day. Like, I went there and I started teaching them basic habits: to wash their hand before they eat, to smile when somebody comes, or say hello, and you know just normal things you do in a normal life. do to do handshake, to high five, like something like that. And when it comes to rural area, there is education, there is awareness, there is set of rules and regulation that a person has to follow. But when it comes to slum, there's nothing like that, because maybe government even does not bother about who lives in slum, because we live in a society where we all just, you know, look after one another who belongs to a same set of caste, or you can say standards of life. We don't bother about what is happening in slum, or we don't even bother to talk to somebody who's selling fruits and you say, or bhaiya kaise ho, kya hal chal aapke. You don't bother to say him anything, you don't even greet them good morning or thank you. So there is so much of discrimination on every level. And I can ask everyone out there to bring a change suddenly in their life. I just want, if somebody wants to bring a change in the society, they need to be the change. For example, if I want to see change in the society, then I have to be that change, because I'm not somebody who can preach about something that I don't do, and that's not right at all. So that's the reason whenever I go out, even if I go to a vendor shop or I go somewhere and I'm buying something, I do say thank you in return. Despite of giving them money, because like it's like buy and take relationship, you're buying something, you give money in return. But I do say thank you, because that's how you bring a change, because they deserve it. Because we think only the person who's rich enough, or who is CEO or the principal or your teacher or something like that, who is at a certain level, who's holding a position in society, they deserve all this. But I think every human deserves something, and at least what they deserve is a good manners in life which are taught to you. And same goes for the slum. People hardly look after them, because if you talk to yourself and you talk to your friends, like how many of your friends go out and work in slum, there will be very less amount of number of people going in slum and working for them, because we actually don't care. Yes, that's a harsh reality, but we actually don't care about them. We only care about the people from which we can maintain a relation, so we can be like, you can say, get favors in return, or that's good for your social standard, that's it. But we won't step down and go for the people who have nothing to give us in return. Well, that is why the word equality is very important. It's not just a word, it's something so much beyond it. And we need to understand the value of equality, because we have to treat everyone equally, despite of knowing how rich or poor they are, what is their position in society, what they are doing, whether they can contribute back or not. You have to be very selfless in order to work in the society. And maybe that's how the change can come.
Jasmine, your point about the differences in terms of mindset in rural and slums, rural areas and slums and all is absolutely bang on. I agree with you on most of the points that you've just mentioned. And indeed, we must not differentiate between a businessman and a person who gives us, newspapers or cleans our house. Both of them are the same, because the only difference is, I mean, there's no difference if we look at it in a bigger perspective. We all are humans and we all need to treat each other fairly. It's not just equally but also fairly. So, in that context, moving on, I'd like to ask you about your experience in terms of how the slums work and how they sustain themselves by doing odd jobs. So, what is your experience? How has it been for you? And what is the first time you understood how slums work, and how does one from the outside world try to connect with them? Over to you.
Well, it was heartbreaking. Yes, it was really very heartbreaking when I got to know what they eat. I have a very small hand, and they were eating fishes, and the size of the fishes was smaller than my fingers. And there were only 7 8 fishes, and 4 members were about to eat those 7 fishes only, and they were the grown up people. So I felt so bad that they don't even have proper food to eat. And that time I realized how much food a person waste when they go to a marriage or to a restaurant, and they just leave and they just don't bother about it, they don't care about it. And here are the people who don't even have proper food to eat. So that was really emotional and that was very heartbreaking. And somewhere I was little happy that because today I brought a food, they will be able to eat food without feeling hungry at night. Well, in the second question, I will say what they do for living is collect plastic bottles, plastic containers, and plastic paper. Because when I went to the slum, whole area was covered in plastic, and they have little tents between them. They don't even have proper toilets. So can you imagine? Nowadays we have at least two or three bathrooms in our home, and there is a place in slum where they don't have those facilities. So that was very emotional. And secondly, I do ask them whether their children study or not, and they said they don't need to study because they don't feel like studying is that important for them. So you know how education is important, because their parents feel they have nothing to do with the education, they will follow the same activities what they are doing. And what I felt was, when I was talking to those kids, even they were not knowing what life is all about. They were like so congested in their own little world that they don't know the what whole world is about, what education is about, what life is all about. They were so much limited to their knowledge. I came home and I asked my parents whether they can give me some money so I can pay for their school, so they can get access to their education, at least basic education, so they could know why education is so important. Then I went back to the slum and talked to their parents, and the parents denied it. And that time I felt, how could I change their mindset? I'm not able to change their mindset, I'm not able to convince them. But I really wanted to do that, but I was so helpless. So I asked them twice and thrice whether they can change their mind, but they said they don't want their children to go in school or something like that, because they don't consider it to bring a change, or that education can be good for their kids or not. And maybe that is why I started teaching in Islam, because I can't force their parents to send them in school, but I can force myself to go there and teach them. At first I started with the drawings, because you can't go out and just teach them like 1 to 10 or alphabet A to Z at first, because there will be no interest in them, they don't even bother about it. Because whenever I used to go, they used to care about like what I brought this time for them. So teaching them was a totally different concept, and I need the interest in that so that they can learn. So I gave them colors, I gave them drawings to fill it with colors. So that's how we maintain a relationship. They understand my perspective, and I started looking after them according to their perspective, and we maintain a good relationship now. They know the basic habits, which might not be so good for somebody who's like us. We will say ye to sabko aata hai, like it's like everybody knows that, but for them it's a huge thing, and that's what makes me happy, that somewhere I'm able to help them. Now we have maintained such a great bond. They are so happy to see me, and I am so happy to see them in return. Though I wasn't able to go on regular basis because I'm a college student, I have to maintain 75% of my attendance. I have to pursue my goals. So I decided on every festival I will go there. I will celebrate my festivals with them. And in vacation I will go much more days. I will cover much more days. So it will be like sufficient for myself also and for them also.
Jasmine, I think I can relate to their experience of talking to them, then trying to, school them inside, give them something to work on, like it's like the way you said, giving them something to draw, trying to visualize, that kind of experience I have had with the same kind of children in when they were put in, rehabilitation center like South, where they would be teaching them the basics of education. So what is math, what is like the tables, how to, all of this. So even there I found out a lot of children that were who were staying there, a lot of them turned out to be children whose parents were working in some construction or even rag pickers, and or even small stuff. So this tells us that there should be compassion towards them, and I think it is the most important tool before we even try to advance a step further to try to help them. And moving beyond, I'd like to ask you, how do you think India in general, or perceives this problem? Do you think slums are something that can be helped in bigger ways by giving them, a lot of cities like Delhi now have started regularizing the slums as colonies. So now what was earlier a slum would now become a, proper full functioning colonies, residential areas. So do you think that's a good step, or do you think there's something that can become a problem because of doing that? And that's the first one. And once you answer this, we'll move on to the next question.
Well, what government of Delhi is doing, it's an example of bringing a change in society, and it's a great initiative. Not only the government has to do, but also the people in general have to do something for it, because together we can bring a change. Rather than being dependent on one part of society, we have to be dependent on each other on a collective manner to bring a change in a society. And what I will say, that there's nothing in this world that we cannot fix. If we run through a proper procedure, proper channel, we can maintain a you know good way of conducting life for everyone. So if the slum area is converting into colonies, that is a big step for turning their life into a different picture, because now if we look at them, they will be only bothered about limited area and limited knowledge. But when we will turn them into colonies and we will work under it and we will work on them, they will realize that the picture they are holding is much 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 more bigger than what is picture outside. So that's what I feel, and that should be the initiative taken by every person. That also one thing I want to add. Now if we look at it, that we know that government of Delhi is doing, but why people of Delhi are not doing? Are they not bothered about those people, or it's just the job of the government that they have to look after? So that is the difference. Till we don't relate to each other, we don't create a bond between each other, and we don't work for them, things won't work out. Secondly, what I want to say is, by turning them into colonies will be a huge step, because they will get a proper way of life, they will get education, and education, as I said before, is completely necessary. Till they don't get education, they won't get awareness, they won't get to know what government is doing for them, what government schemes are there, what they can do for their life. So turning slums into colonies is a great initiative, and that's what everyone should do. So that's what my point is. And when people living in slum will see that how much other people are doing for them, they will feel that they are also part of them, and that will change their mindset for sure. And I guess that will be the day when they will decide to send their children in school, because then they will see that how much people they don't know are contributing toward their life, and they will think like, now we have to contribute to our children by agreeing to the term that they deserve education as much as every other student in this world deserve. Well, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk on this topic, because I really wanted to talk. The problem is with us, with our parents, with our society, because when a boy is crying, they say mard ko dard nahi ho sakta, men can never get hurt, men can never cry like a girl, kya ladkiyon ki tarah ro raha hai. That's the issue. Like, they are brought up in such a condition where they cannot express themselves. Like, I will give my life example. Like, my uncle was there with his son, and his son was like scared of something and he started crying, and my uncle just said, क्या तू लड़कियों की रो रहा है? And I felt so bad, and I corrected my uncle like, please don't teach your child this habit. He will stop sharing stuff with you, and later on you have to pay a huge price of this, because he will suffer from depression at one level, and that time he won't be able to talk to you because you have taught him such habits, and which are extremely toxic. you know I read WHO report, World Health Organization report 2 years back, that every fifth person in India who is male is suffering from depression, and we guys are not taking it seriously because we don't consider depression or mental health issue such a huge thing. We just simple say, oh, why you are getting depressed over such thing. It might be small for you, but you don't know what that person is going through. Secondly, girls can talk. Girls can talk to themselves, they can talk to their best friends or somebody they like or their parents. But for a boy, it's a huge deal. They need patience, they need, sense of comfort to open up, because they are brought in such way that they cannot share their stuff. They can't share their story. And that is why I need to say to everyone out there, stop teaching your child that मर्द को दर्द नहीं होता, because they are human, they are not robots. So stop treating them like this. And you won't believe about Sushant Singh Rajput. Few months back I was stalking him on Instagram, and I just found out that he removed all his posts, like normal day life posts. There were like 200 300 above posts, and he just completely vanished it. And then he started posting something that was very different from his personality, and I thought maybe he just got different vision of life, different perspective of life. And now these all things make sense. Maybe somehow I feel like he was suffering from depression, maybe because when you suffer from depression you are completely off the original you start behaving in a different manner, you start posting so much, you start posting so much different than your normal stuff. And I feel so bad that being a person, being a normal person, I was able to guess it, that something is wrong. And he was a superstar, lot of friends, like lot of fan following, and nobody was there to help him, and today he committed suicide. So you need to understand that it is such a huge issue that our country, people of our country should focus on it, that depression is a huge thing. It's not something very light that you are ignoring it over and over again. Well, if I look around males in my life, I will say some of them are actually suffering from depression or anxiety because they have no one to talk to them. Means, how a person is so lonely that they can't share something that they really want to talk about because they are scared of what other people are going to think about it. So even I feel like when I talk to my friend, I see like I can, because I'm very mature to be honest, and I see like they are suffering from it, and I just listen it. They don't need sympathy, they just need somebody to listen to them. All you need to do is listen to someone when they are feeling bad. Talk to someone when you see that something is off with them. It might be like little, you might think, oh, it's a waste of time, why should I text him or her? But it will mean a lot to them if you talk to them, because I have done so many times, and I know how they reacted in the end. You might be end up saving someone's life, you don't even know about it. But at least do pay attention to such people when you see something is off with them.
Jasmine, regarding the depression topic and how unfortunately we've lost a very talented actor due to the same, and I think I just want to make an observation. We are all taught that failure is something we should never accept and we should always strive for success. But many centuries ago, when Bhagavad Gita was first, propounded by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, he makes a very important observation, and it's a lesson to all of mankind. That is, we all must treat success and failure as two sides of the same coin, or rather, we have to be level-headed and never get any of, be it a success or failure, to our head. We should be indifferent when we should carry on our work without expecting any reward, or becoming sad and all when we don't get anything. So we should always maintain a proper balance. We must understand there's something called success, and equally there can always be one day of failure. So therefore we should never let ourselves feel that there's okay, it's right, it's very well okay to be depressed, but one should understand that it's also a temporary phase and it can never last, and nothing can be temporary, permanent, sorry, excuse me, it's nothing can be permanent. And therefore we should always strive to be level-headed and balance of success and failure, because both are actually two sides of the same coin. Moving on, I'd like to just bring it back to the main topic that we have been discussing. What do you think has been the observation in your, in your to your eyes, that in cases of slums, there's a lot of jugaad that they have. You might call them slums, and they might not be having any education, but they are very creative. When you give them the right tools, I think they're absolutely creative. I have seen that firsthand. So, what do you think should be the policies towards slums, and do you think slums will get away if we try to, if every project that you build will naturally create a slum around it? So, what is the way ahead? How do you think, or there should be a policy over it? What is the way out? I know we can never get rid of slum, but we at least can try to control it and try to reduce the spread, so that it's not something that can be, there should not be it should be a positive approach, in my opinion. So what is your opinion in that case? How should one look at it from a policy perspective?
The biggest problem we face is we don't look what they need, we look what we can provide, to be honest. And that's the main cause of the clash. We need to study them and their perspective, then make policies according to them what could be implemented, so we can make a better lifestyle for them, rather than sitting in an office and thinking about our knowledge, thinking about our perspective and imposing on them. That is the reason why there is so much clashes and there's so much less development on it. Well, I will completely agree with you. They are extremely creative because they don't have bookish knowledge, but they have the knowledge of outside world, which is completely very necessary for any person. Like, if we have gained so much of knowledge through our books, but when we go out, life takes so many tastes from you that don't come from the bookish world. That time we have to implement our own external mind, that what we have taught ourselves, what the circumstances have taught ourselves, and we work accordingly. So somehow they have a benefit, because they might not have a bookish knowledge, they might not know what alpha gamma beta is, but they do know how to overcome with the situation that are prevailing in front of them, and they know how to get through it. As you said, if we give them proper set of tools, they can create wonders. I completely agree with that, because they are actually very talented. And for a while we just need to pay attention to their lifestyle, so we can understand their skills, their abilities, their views, their mindset, and we can bring the best out of them. Rather than imposing our perspective, it's better to understand their perspective, because it's their life we have to change, not our life, by bringing the change in their life that they won't be able to adjust in. For a while, imagine yourself, like, close your eyes and imagine yourself living in a slum, living in a tent without a toilet. You won't be even able to imagine the hardship they go through. And that is why it's people like us has to come forward and contribute to their life, to make their life better. Look, getting a proper home with proper facilities, having a toilet, is a dream of those people, they all need this. They don't want to become a millionaire, they just need a house for their children and a toilet so their wives don't have to go and open. So can you imagine what are their basic needs, and that's the only need they need to focus on. In the end, I will only say that I read a quote once that probably changed my life and my perspective, that we all are waiting for someone to bring a change in our life to save ourselves, but we are not ready to be that someone. You don't need an army to bring a change in the society. An individual is so much powerful if they have a good perspective and a willingness to work in the society. So please, guys, go out and work. Even those little steps will matter a lot. Please, please help in the society.
I think we all need to first acknowledge the effort that Jasmine has put to explain the issues in great detail and very lucidly. I think the message is very, very clear that we all need to strive on our own and do our bit to try to change before we even talk about, not we might want change, but we also need to do our best to try to change things. And that's the biggest takeaway from this episode. And more power to you, Jasmine. I hope you keep doing what you're doing and get a bigger audience as well. And before we close, I'd like to just remind all our viewers that myself and our co-host Lavpreet Kaur have been part of an NGO we actually all founded an NGO during our school times in 2014 or so. And it is headed and it's based in Hyderabad, and it's called FCBI. It has been helping slum dwellers and small, workers, construction workers, and their families to get their essentials and rations during this lockdown. And we are trying our best through our NGO to try to help them and try to educate them and even provide them masks, sanitizers, and a lot of, this this pandemic has created a big problem even for them. So we are trying our best in our own ways to try to help them out. So do check out their Twitter and Instagram handles at FCBI_Hyderabad. On that note, we'd like to sign off this episode, and thanks a lot for joining us. This is your co-host Pavan Kumar signing off.